Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Tamika. This is Library of Tomes, where I talk to you about all the bookish things going on in my life. Today I'm going to be doing my April wrap up. Ignore the crazy background behind me. Listen, my shelves are being redone, so they look a little wild. I moved this room around a little bit, so bear with me for the next couple videos. But I read 20 titles in April. I was supposed to read 30 volumes of manga. I read 7. We are just doing great around here. So I'm going to quickly run through the titles from the beginning of the month, and then I will go into the 5 books that I need to talk about. And then you've already seen my manga log, which has all of the manga that I read in April. So we have Vampire Seduction. I gave this one a 4-star. We have The Dark Prince, which was a vampire romance. I gave this one a 4.5 star, almost a 5-star. This one was really, really good. Then I read Dirty Love, which I DNF'd. So we don't have a rating on that one. I did not enjoy that one. If you remember from my mid-month, it was just not my favorite. Then I have Ringmaster by Brianna Hale. I finally got this one finished. I started this one in March. Then I read Blue Flag Volume 1. I read The Knight's Baby by Stina. I gave this one a 4-star. It was a 3.5 rounded up to 4. Then I read all 3 volumes of Love and Focus, and overall I'm giving the series a 4-star. I gave every single volume 4 stars. Then I read Blood Kissed. This one I gave a 4-star. This is a witchy paranormal. Then I read Beauty and Darkness, which was a very surprising fantasy romance that I gave 5 stars. Then I read The Dragon Shifter's Duty, which I gave a 3.5 star. So I'm gonna quickly talk about the 3 mangas that I need to just wrap up for the second half of the month, and that was Pleasure and Corruptions Volume 1 through 3. I talked more in depth about this, obviously, in my log for the month, but I enjoyed the series, and that's all I'm gonna say about it. I enjoyed it. So if you want more thoughts, you can go over there and watch it. So now I have to talk about the other 5 books that I read. I did actually do pretty good. Last week was like a weird reading week, but the week before that was pretty good. So the first thing I need to talk about is Being Mrs. Kane. This is by Shinora Williams. I actually read this series like 2 years ago, and I just never completed it because I was not sold on the concept of a novella after the series ended, because I was worried it was just gonna be a novella length epilogue, and that's exactly what it was. I give this a 3-star. Though I really enjoy Katie and Kane, and though I really enjoyed their story, I could have gave less of a shit about this epilogue that they had. I'm not even a fan of epilogues in general. I prefer to leave off on a romance knowing they get an HEA and not having to read about the babies and the wedding and the happily ever after, but just knowing they get the happily ever after, like ending the book like, and they were happily and they were together and whatever. I don't care about seeing it. I just could care less about the epilogue of a romance novel, which is, I know, not the normal, like, everyone usually loves the epilogue. I don't. I actually prefer to not have them. I just prefer to not have to deal with it personally. So yeah, I was just like, whatever with this one. Okay, cool. That's great. Glad that that's happening. I didn't need it. It could have literally just been like a bonus epilogue at the last book. This was just, it was so pointless. It was literally just a full-length, like novella-length epilogue that no one asked for. If someone asked for this, I don't understand why. It was just the same drama all over again. It was annoying, okay? I gave it 3 stars because I enjoyed Katie and I love Kane, but I just could have cared less. I just don't care. I didn't care. It was written well. It was written great. I just don't care. I just didn't care at all. And that's essentially the problem with that one. Do I recommend you read this? No. I don't recommend you read it. I literally could tell you what happened in 3 sentences and spoil the entire thing, and you'll be like, oh, cool. That's all I needed. Because like, it literally provided no other value other than just more time with the characters. If you absolutely love this series, like if this is like your favorite series ever, or this is like your favorite set of characters literally ever to exist, read it by all means. But like, if this is just like a good series that you enjoyed, don't even waste your time, because you're just gonna be like annoyed by the time you're done with it. So then I read Trophy Wife. This I thought was a black love romance, but it was not. It was urban fiction. So this was completely on me for the reason I didn't like it. I gave it a 3.5 star because I enjoyed the characters and I enjoyed the premise of the story, but I thought I was getting a romance, and I realized way too late into the story that that was not what was happening. So essentially we follow London and our hero, whose name I cannot remember, and he is trying to like provide for his daughter, and he's working like low-end jobs just so that he can like provide for her and provide a stable life. And London is struggling with a situation where her husband is extremely abusive and beating her to the point where she doesn't know how she's gonna survive. And London and our hero end up having a relationship and end up having an extended period of time together because London is teaching a class that his daughter is in. We think that they're gonna have a romance, and we think that they're gonna have a happily ever after. That just doesn't happen at all. I really enjoyed the story and like getting to see the way those things were happening with like with this man trying to provide for his daughter after getting out of prison, and just seeing what lengths he will go to for the people he cares about. I just really wish we could have got an HGA, and I know it's not the book. I know it's not. It was 100% me not knowing it was a romance, but once I realized, I was like, oh no, because I was really rooting for the characters. Take that with a grain of salt. It was a really good story, and if you are interested in urban fiction, I do recommend you check it out. It does have a sad ending, so don't go in expecting a romance. You'll probably enjoy it a lot more than I did. But I definitely am interested in more urban fiction. I need to make sure I'm not thinking it's romance, because I will be disappointed again. But I definitely want to try the genre again. I think if I had known that it was urban fiction, I would have probably gave it a 4 star, but I am excited to try more, and I'm hoping for better next time by actually knowing what I'm getting into. So then I actually read a black love romance. It was I Think I Might Love You by Christina C. Jones. I read this as an audiobook through Hoopla. This was a novella following 2 characters. I think Jacqueline's the heroine's name and Caden is the hero's name. I think I'm right. But they are very, very cute. They have a very interesting interaction for the first time. Jacqueline is going home to visit her sister's apartment. She's like visiting her sister, thinking she's gonna crash there because her and her ex-boyfriend, they broke up because she found out her ex-boyfriend actually has a wife and children, and she had no idea. So she ends up going there. Caden is actually there because her sister is renting the apartment to him, and she ends up kneeing him in the balls. And then after she leaves and they have this confrontation, she ends up getting arrested outside and having to do 400 hours of community service, and she ends up having to do the community service with him. It's very, very cute. I really enjoyed watching them work together and eventually finding their rhythm with each other. It was super cute, and I definitely cannot wait to read more Christina C. Jones. I absolutely adored this one. I gave it a 4 star. So then I also read Dark Notes by Pam Godwin. This was the Taboo Book Club pick for April. I really, really enjoyed this story. I read this with Charles from Books on Stereo. He was my guest host for April. I have a lot of thoughts. We talked very in depth on the live show about things that we loved and we didn't love about this story. I gave it a 4.5, rounding up to a 5, and I really, really enjoyed it. There's a lot of things in here that you need to be aware of before you go into the story. But specifically, there are so many trigger warnings, and there are so many things in here that could be considered hard-nosed for people. But as me and Charles really talked about, I really felt like this story was not super dark. I really felt like it was like in the middle of dark, but I read so many dark things, I feel like you kind of need to like know all the trigger warnings before I can say you could read this. This does have rape on page. This has a lot of abuse, mental and physical abuse. This has sodomy and prostitution and sex with a minor, because our heroine is only 17 throughout the entirety of the story. And I do say quite often that minors in romances are a hard sell. Like, the only hard no's that I have are bestiality and things like that. So this one in particular has a lot of things that could be a hard no for a lot of people, but I really, really loved the story. I never felt like any of the things that happened, none of the abuse ever felt like it was put on the page just for shock factor, just to make it darker, just to make it a darker romance. It never felt that way to me. It always felt like everything that was happening, everything that was put in the story was intentionally put in there by Pam Godwin to create a character who had dealt with horrible trauma and watching her overcome that. One thing that me and Charles talked about that I really loved about the story was the fact that our heroine was so meek when it came to her partner, because she gave all of this stress and worry over to him. And that's the way I read it, was she was finally letting go because she had been strong for so long. She took over that submissive role so that he could take care of her in a sense. And that was something I really loved about her. And I just really loved this story in general. There was some ridiculous things where I needed to suspend my disbelief. There were times where I laughed out loud, and there was things where I was like, was absolutely unnecessary. I don't know why that was even put in here, but overall the story was really, really good. I'm very excited to say that I've read Pam Godwin. I really enjoyed this one, and I definitely plan on continuing her books, and I cannot wait to see what else she puts out. And then lastly, we could not have had a wrap up this month without mentioning Rush by Brianna Hale. I absolutely adored this book. This was a 5-star read. This was such a good story. I couldn't end this wrap up any better than other than talking about Rush by Brianna Hale. And if you didn't know, Rush is the Taboo Book Club pick for May. I am so excited. This is a rock star daddy kink romance. I just fell in love with it. The characters were so well done and the premise was so good. There is like some light DDLG because there is a little bit like thumb sucking and like cute undies and things like that, but like overall, this is very much like a daddy kink, not super into little space, just kind of like barely testing the waters of little space. And like, we are definitely dealing with a heroine who loves physical, like, so she's a masochist. She likes to be physically hurt, and she also likes to be humiliated with degradation. She really, really loves that and enjoys that in the bedroom. And our hero has these urges to have this type of relationship, and he has never really had the opportunity to have that, and he finally gets to have that with our heroine, and it's just so beautiful, and I love it. She is a choreographer, and she has had an issue with another band in the past, and our hero comes around and says, hey, I will, how about you just work with me? And she's very hesitant, and eventually they agree to do a music video together because he is so persistent, and it was just absolutely beautiful. I loved it so much, and I love Brianna Hale. I'm so freaking happy that she continues to do what she does because I just love her so much. So those are all of the books that I read in April. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite book was in April, and leave me a leaf emoji. Leave me a leaf because I really want fall and spooky time for some reason. It's just now spring, whatever. Anyway, leave me a leaf in the comments, and I will chat with y'all in my next video. Bye everyone.